Right. Good afternoon, everyone, or morning still, I think. I'm Annerine Wenholdt. I'm the owner of Kairos Academy, homeschool mom of 3, and I'm really blessed to be able to spend some time with you this morning. So thank you for attending this session. So our talk today is about standardized assessments. It is part of life. It is part of the educational journey. And we will unpack some of it during the discussion. So we don't have a lot of time, so I might be flashing some of the slides. You are more than welcome to take photos or to drop by at our stand later on if you would like to further the discussion. But in short, we will touch on standardized assessments are, is it something that you need to pursue in your school environment, in your home environment? What are some of the pros and cons associated with it? And then we will touch on some of the more commonly applied subject as well as tertiary admission standardized assessments that's applied within the South African context. Okay, so if you look at literature, there's a bunch of types of assessments that are available for us to apply. It's good to familiarize yourself with what's out there. I would like to touch on 3, which we commonly applied within the homeschool environment. The first being the diagnostic test. So this type of test is commonly known in our environment as a placement test, where you will assess where you need to start with a particular learning. Commonly applied within the maths and English environments. It's a very helpful tool to pitch where you kick off with a particular learning. Then the second one is the formative assessments, which is the assessments that's incorporated into the learning so that you can continuously assess if it is adding value, if the child is learning. So it might be through discussion-based assessments. It might be through quizzes. So it's really to determine the process, is it adding value to your student? And then lastly, it's the summative assessments, and it's really in this category that your standardized assessments mostly fall. It's the end-of-year projects or end-of-year tests, where you will then evaluate how much has been learned. Okay, so for today, I would like to touch on these 4 quadrants as they will influence your choice, because you do have a choice. It is important to consider the uniqueness of your child. Each child has got their own giftedness or learning differences, aspirations, ability to work ethic, age, etc., etc. So all of that should play a role in defining what you choose and when you apply those. Similarly, then what you need to choose must be a good fit for your child, considering that, and ultimately in the choice of test instrument, also considering the matriculation route that you choose, because that will influence what is available for you as well as the child's tertiary goal. Okay, so I think many of us, for standardized assessments, can be an emotional thing. So we tend to think about the cons more than the pros, but there are various pros associated with standardized testing as well. I'm not going to read through all of those for time purposes, but just to highlight a few, the fact is that it is more objective. Sometimes as parents, when we evaluate a child, especially I find it difficult when we do essays or projects, I'm either too strict or I might be too lenient. So sometimes these type of instruments might assist you in that instance. It might motivate your child also to study for something, because it's then a goal that they're working towards, and then it can improve some study habits as well. The last point there, specifically in terms of the tertiary environment, it can help your child also to secure either scholarships and or tertiary placement, either here in South Africa or abroad. As most things in the world, there's both sides of the coin that we need to consider. So in terms of the cons, there can be various ones. I think we know from our own experience as well that it can test the child's knowledge to a certain extent, but it doesn't always test the ability and value that a child can bring to a work environment or a school environment. It doesn't necessarily indicate tertiary readiness either, because in many cases you need underlying softer skills. Sometimes not scoring well in a test can be bad for the child's self-esteem, and that for us as parents as well. You know, we put too much emphasis on that test result and let it validate everything that we've done, rightly or wrongly so. Okay, so on this slide, I've wanted to give you a view of some of the test instruments that's available in South Africa. Of course, it's not all. So I'm sure that plenty of you can add some further ones. The ones in blue, let me just see how I have to find them. The ones in blue are externally marked, and but yeah, all of them are available to our families. You know, even for the youngsters, we know that experts advise us not to start with standardized testing too soon, but if you need that for whatever purposes, even for yourself as a feedback loop for improving your homeschool environment, then there are valuable tools available that you can proctor from home. Yeah, as I mentioned, the green ones you can proctor from home, the others not. So on this slide, I just want to give a comparison of some of the subject-related tests and standardized tests that are available. I've specifically listed here the Advanced Placement program. It's an American program, dual credit subjects. Again, this is where your child can have access to tertiary level of material in the US environment. The GED subjects and Cambridge subjects. I've not added the NSC here. You know, I'm assuming that everyone is familiar with those because most of us went through that system. But as you will see here, you know, it is administered by different bodies. Some of them has been in operation for a long time, especially if you look at all of these international programs. There's a various amount of and different types of subjects available. I will touch on some of them just now. So our students do have further surface subject offerings than in the school environment. Some of these exams are based or only available in a certain time of the year. And then you can also take a look here at the exam duration. You know, some of them can take a long time. The GED subjects you see there, I've got 7 hours, but you can write the subjects separately. So it's not a 7-hour block that you need to sit. And then again, the cost varies there. The ones I've added the dollar price because the dollar and rand is fluctuating so much, so you can do the calculation with multiplying by 18. It will give you an indication of where it currently lies. Okay, so just a flash to show you some of the AP subjects that's available. Advanced Placement program was developed, as I've mentioned, in the 1950s with the idea to give high school students access to tertiary level of subjects. So if you continue with your tertiary education in the US, either online or in person, then typically these subjects will transfer and you will reduce the cost and time spent at actual university. Then just for comparison purposes, this is Cambridge, and typically this is a combination of I think AS and A level type of subjects. So you can see there's many languages available if that is your thing, but also a large amount of other subjects. Okay, so I just want to touch on this to bring the next slide into context. So your traditional school model in South Africa, and I've added there the NQF levels of SAQA so that you can get an indication, is where your matric is typically an NQF 4 level qualification, and then you will proceed with the tertiary level. However, as homeschoolers, especially if you follow, depending on your tertiary choices, you will have access to the tertiary level of subjects through the AP subjects that I just spoke about, or the dual credits, which will actually put you in a position where you can follow this enhanced educational model, where you will be able to do tertiary level courses already during high school, and then if that adds value to your child, fast track that development so that you can spend the later years following a higher degree on tertiary level. So for example, my daughter is now in grade 11. We will in her grade 12 year do dual credit for all her subjects. She will be matriculating with American high school diploma, but also with her first year of tertiary studies completed. So just to give you an indication of material that is available from that dual credit environment, this is Arizona State University. It's a program that's commonly applied by many homeschoolers across the world. So you can see, I just want to give you an indication of the amount and nature of courses that are available to our students as well. Okay, so the second part of standardized assessments, we focus now on subjects that's available for our children if we want to include that in our schooling. But then there's also, from an admission viewpoint, there are some tests that needs to be written. So I've added here the SAT, because that is applicable to the American environment. Whether you do Cambridge or NSC or the American high school diploma, if you want to go and study in the US, this might be a requirement. And then I've compared it here with the national benchmark test, which might be applicable to any of our students in the local environment. I've seen, interestingly enough, the University of Pretoria stipulated in this year's admission policy that they are dropping the NBTs for their courses. So yeah, it will be interesting to see the direction that that test will take in the future in the other universities as well. Okay, so I want to focus now on the matriculation route, because your choice of matriculation route will determine the types and nature of the tests that you will take. So that is just something that you need to consider when making that choice. I've added here some of the popular options in South Africa. It doesn't mean there aren't others, because there are. But yeah, I focused here on the South African, the American, and then the NSC. Okay, so what I've added here for you is just to show you the standardized exams that you will face through these routes. So again, you need to look at a fit for your child and what fit for your family. You know, there's no right or wrong choice. You know, it's what works best for your family. I'm just bypassing the automation that I've got in here, thank you, because of time. So this is for a local university environment. So again, I mentioned the NBTs that might be required for any of these routes. For your international qualifications, you will typically work through USAF, our matriculation board for university exemption. where the SAT might be required, or APs in the diploma environment. For the Cambridge environment, you will need to have certain subjects from certain groups at a certain level. So that is something to consider there. So we see more and more private universities stepping up and coming to the forefront, which is great, to address the tertiary need locally. So many of them make use of the SACWA equivalency reports for the international environment. With the NSC, there's no further process that you need to follow, so no further assessments necessarily required for this route, although some of them might require the SAT or NBT depending on their own admission requirements. Okay, I've taken the US here as an example. I could have taken Europe or another continent of area, but I just want to give an indication. So again, you will have your standardized assessments for matriculation that might or might not be required depending on the matriculation route, and then you might have the tertiary admission requirements, again depending on the admission requirements of that particular university. They do have the mandate and freedom to take those decisions, and which you then need to apply if you want. Okay, so this is my last slide, just to say again, it's your child, your goals, your strategy. So you do have freedom of choice. There is flexibility to jump from one system to another in terms of the matriculation route. You've got options in terms of the tertiary choices as well, to find something that fits the need of your particular child. So thank you for your attendance, and hopefully this has provided some further insight into this topic for you.